Once again, I'm asking you, what if Mimikyu was in Gen 1 OU? Now, Mimikyu was one of the first Pokemon I ever went over in the channel, and it was weird. Like, probably one of the weirdest Pokemon I ever covered, especially for the time. And people were excited about it, but it just had a weird, like, weird everything, really. A weird stat distribution, unique typing, and the move pool. Oh my gosh, the move pool. Let's just make a new thing. Like, get a new Mimikyu on screen. So that you could just see some of the things I have to deal with. And this kind of going back to my old videos where I just look up the moves as I was doing it. But basically, it was a sword stance user, which is good. But what physical moves were you using other than Hyper Beam? Like, do you have Body Slam? No you don't. Do you have Double Edge? Nope. So what else is there? Earthquake, obviously, you don't have. Not even Rock Slide. So you only had Hyper Beam. So Sword Stance was cool, but why would you use it? Now, as for your special attack, yeah, that's 50. So you have moves like Psychic, and that might be it. I think there's also a Thunderbolt technically, but why would you ever want to use it? So your only real way of doing consistent damage is... yeah, you kind of had to use it, really. It's like Thunder Wave. Sword Stance, I guess. And then the last move, which was just whatever you wanted, but it just ended up being really bad no matter what you did. So what's changing this time? Well, now I've given Mimikyu a new signature move and Play Rough. And this significantly changes how good Mimikyu is. Because for one, it's just literally any physical move. Just something that you can use to take advantage of Sword Stance with. But the fact that its stab is even better. 90 attack isn't that bad for the time. It hits pretty hard. With 105 special defense, you are pretty tanky on the special side as well. Or at least as tanky as you can be with just a honestly underwhelming, if not even kind of bad, 55 base HP. You have 80 defense, but it's not the biggest deal because you are already immune to normal. And unlike Gengar, you're not weak to Psychic or Ground. You have an absolutely fantastic defensive typing. And luckily the Fairy type doesn't really hinder you at all any way, really. There's no Steel type moves. There's... I mean, even if there was Poison, I'm pretty sure that you resist Poison? The only Ghost move is Lick, so you're good. You're just... You're golden, really. Now granted, because of your HP, you're not really loving neutral moves. They are hitting pretty hard. But still, no Explosion, no Body Slam, no Hyper Beam. So a lot of things you can handle pretty well. And then with 96 speed, you are 1 point ahead of Jinx. Which is kind of weird, because I feel like you're not really taking advantage of your speed a lot. But at the same time, being faster than Jinx when you have strong physical moves and paralysis is really good. And also just in general, that gives you a pretty good crit rate. And everyone loves a good crit rate, don't we? Now, I'm pretty sure this is the best moveset you can use. Play Rough, Sword Stance, Thunder Wave, Hyper Beam. You can set up whenever you can, but even if you can't, just paralyzing things is pretty good. Because of your typing, Tauros can't really hurt you outside of Blizzard and Earthquakes, meaning you're always gonna get a free paralysis off of it, which is incredibly good. Things like Snorlax are pretty tanky, so you don't really love facing it. Outside the attack drop from Play Rough, that's pretty unreliable. You're good against Chansey, you hit pretty hard against Alakazam, and like I said earlier, Jinx. But everything pretty much has the ability to hurt you as well. I would still say by default, Mimikyu is the best Sword Stance user. But it's not like it can carelessly get up those Sword Stance. You need an opportunity still, which is unfortunate. But on the bright side, with the Sword Stance, I'm pretty sure Play Rough 2 KOs basically everything. The only things that doesn't really 2 KO would be Slowbro, Rhydon, and Cloyster. Which, you know, obviously are kind of threats to you anyways. So yeah, significantly better. I don't really know where you would put it on the tier list or the viability rankings. It's just a very weird Pokemon in general. But the last thing I'll say is that MIMIKYU here will be getting a chance for you guys to see how good it is in Gen 1 OU. Because at the moment, there is currently a Halloween Jumble going on in my server. If you just join my Discord server, I host tournaments and formats, which are based off the What If videos that I do. And here, MIMIKYU with Play Rough is allowed, along with other Pokemon such as Skeledirge, Delphox, Corviknight, Gliscor, Grimmsnarl, Swoobat, etc. It's gonna be a lot of fun. So please consider joining. And also while you're at it, definitely subscribe. It helps out a lot. Now the last thing I feel like I need to explain is why Play Rough was given. That's because in Pokemon Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon, MIMIKYU has an exclusive Z move. The Z move is called Wet Snuggle Forever, but in order to use it, you need to have Play Rough. So as far as I'm concerned, Play Rough in a way is already a signature move of MIMIKYU, even though it was released in Gen 6. But even if it wasn't, I feel like it just kind of deserves it in general, and I don't think any of you guys would have a problem with that. But I think that's about it, so let's get into replays, shall we? Now starting off with the boy himself, we got Tauros. And Earthquake, honestly MIMIKYU thinks the Earthquake pretty well. But obviously being Tauros, it's always got the chance of hitting with a crit. And I feel like MIMIKYU kind of needs to get that Sword Stance off in order to really do good damage to everything. But, you know, it's not the most unlikely thing in the world. And when it does have a Sword Stance, it's one of the most terrifying things in the game. So, pretty good. I'd still call it could go either way, just because it's Tauros, but that's not a bad thing. Now, Snorlax being a lot tankier is definitely a big problem, but you having a good crit rate, that's pretty nice. And if you manage to get an attack drop, well, a lot of things just can't deal with you anymore. Snorlax becomes significantly less threatening when you have an attack drop, because it can't really do much about that. Because, okay, obviously they're switching, but it's Fairy. The only thing that resists Fairy in Gen 1 custom games is Fire. And I'm not just talking about just because it's Gen 1. I have done testing before, and so have other people in the server. Even with Poison and Steel types, Fairy is not resisted by them. Fire is the only resistance to Fairy in Gen 1 custom games, which is really interesting. It also makes me excited for Jumble, because now I'm really excited to see how Skeledirge and Delphox will do. But just keep that in mind. And basically, MIMIKYU is just unresisted, unless you want to use Moltres for some reason. Now, I'm not sure if the sets for Snorlax really matter. Earthquake will always do decent damage, just like Tauros with Earthquake. But if it's Reflect, I don't know. Like, I'm not sure how well Snorlax does. I think these could go either ways, because with MIMIKYU's low HP, both Amnesia Wax and I guess Earthquake can whittle down MIMIKYU and do good damage. Like, sometimes for Pokemon like these, I just don't really have a solid conclusion at the end of the day. That's really the reason why I host tournaments and why I encourage you guys to talk. Because you guys often end up seeing things a lot easier than I can. This one, however, I feel like it's pretty safe to say. Even with Paralysis and even with Reflect, I would still say MIMIKYU does a pretty good job at the end of the day against Chansey. Chansey does have healing, sure. But MIMIKYU already has a Sword Stance up, Chansey's just kind of boned. With a high crit rate, sometimes it goes Ignore Reflect. And yeah, Chansey probably can do a lot of damage with Seismic Toss. But I just don't see Chansey risking it in the first place. It's just too valuable to just allow MIMIKYU to get a free Sword Stance off. So Great might be going too far, but at the same time, I feel like Chansey does fear MIMIKYU so much. And Zam, I'm honestly not sure if Paralyzing the other is even like valuable or like the most optimal thing for this matchup. But either way, it's both are 3-hit KOing each other. MIMIKYU might be a range, but if it's just a range and not even guaranteed, I would say it's could go either way. unless Mimikyu misses Play Rough, we can't forget it's Gen 1. So you know all those times you missed Play Rough in Gen 9 or any other gen and you hated it? Just because it's Gen 1, it means that you're gonna miss way more often. And technically not even a joke, because of the 1-256 glitch. Now Cloister. With some sword stances, Mimikyu can do good here, sure. But boys are 3-hit KOs. And I feel like... I don't know, I just feel like Mimikyu here, it might win, but it's going to be taking a lot of damage. And ideally, with Rest, that can also be used to stall Mimikyu. I guess at the same time, Rest would give Mimikyu more chances to go for Sword Stance. But overall, I just don't like the matchup. I feel like Mimikyu can lose a lot. Now, this was the replay where I was like, oh, Play Rough just 2-hit KOs everything, doesn't it? And overall, I guess it just depends on what the Executor does with whether the special drops or stun spore. But the vast majority of Mimikyu's replays are could go either way. But that's also just fighting everything at full HP. Like I said in plenty of my other videos, these 1v1s are not accurate representations on how these matches would go. Because in actuality, Mimikyu could go for Thunder Wave, but it would prefer if one of your teammates already paralyzed a Pokemon, so it can set up Sword Stance on low HP Pokemon that are just almost dead and paralyzed. And when you put it in that context, Mimikyu does a lot better. To be honest, with that context, I fully can see Mimikyu being OU, but I'm not sure if that was ever a question to begin with. I'm sure some people would look at the low base HP and think it just wouldn't be as good as it might look, but I kind of doubt it. Now, something that once again, I just don't really know what to say about this. Especially with the paralysis involved. For most of these fights, it's not even a matter of which Pokemon's better, it's just who had the better paralysis luck. And in this case, it was Jolteon. It actually made the replays really annoying. Like for the Snorlax one, for example, I had 3 replays in a row where Snorlax kept on getting paralyzed, so it didn't even get to do anything against the Mimikyu. And you're going to say earlier on, but like I had similar bad luck with Zapdos, which is just annoying for these, because I want to be able to show how, like, what happens, but I feel like I kind of needed to go for paralysis, because that's obviously what you would be doing. I don't know. But I already talked about Jinx, like, during the preview, so I don't think you should be surprised there. I guess it did hit Mimikyu pretty hard, but that's the best it can really do. For the most part, it's just scared of Mimikyu. Now, what isn't scared of Mimikyu is Rhydon. Rhydon hits really hard. Mimikyu needs the attack drop in order to survive. Otherwise, it loses. And to be honest, even with the attack drop, even with the Sword Stance, it's probably going to lose either way. To be honest, looking at it again, I'm now starting to think Rhydon might be unwinnable. But that's, whatever. Now, Slowbro was really interesting. Obviously, both of them are paralyzing each other and setting up. Slowbro is physically tankier, but at the same time, since Mimikyu is naturally faster, even if both are setting up, Mimikyu is going to be faster, it can hit first. And with just 2 Sword Stance, Mimikyu can 2-hit KO. However, I'm pretty sure Slowbro is not able to. With just 1 Amnesia, I think it needs 2 to bring Mimikyu close to dying. So I'm not sure if either one has a better chance. I don't think so, just because of, again, paralysis. Paralysis means that that's really what's determining the fight. Not so much which one can hit each other harder after they set up. This is so interesting. And Starmie here, because of Sword Stance and just how Gen 1 works, you are able to become faster. So very similar to when I talked about my video with Grimmsnarl. By the way, Grimmsnarl is also getting its signature moves for the Halloween Jumble. So having 2 physical fairy types is going to be interesting. But also the fact that they use their Fairy Stab. Or not so much Mimikyu, it's just paralyzing and setting up. But the fact that both their entire strategies is paralyzing and becoming faster because of stat drops or stat buffs. I don't know, I find it kind of interesting. Also, I haven't played any season, well not season 4, it's season 5. Yeah, it's season 5 Jumble. And while I haven't played any myself, I've already been hearing some stuff from my council members that people are seriously saying that the big three might be falling off this season. I'm going to have to play some games myself to really understand that, but something else to think about. Now, Victory Bell here, it can probably win the 1v1 without paralysis luck. But I'm assuming just because of how much damage MIMIKYU does, and the fact that you paralyze Pokemon for a reason, I guess this would be a could go either way. One that's probably in Victory Bell's favor. I don't know, Victory Bell is always a weird Pokemon to go over for these replays. But last but not least, we have Zapdos. Now, you're not going to see it in this replay, but Thunderbolt without a crit does about a third. So what you would have expected. With agility, you can become faster, but I'm not sure if that's worth it. You might just be better off going for like just Thunderbolt and just trying to get a crit. But overall, it's just just like most of these, it's a could go either way. But here is the tier list once it's done loading. And I think this I'll move to unwinnable. And this could be moved to good, or even could go either way. It just depends on how you interpret it. Overall, pretty good. Like, you'd be surprised how much better you can do with a stab move that's unique to Gen 1. I think my next one is going to be Corviknight. Because what I understand from the Halloween Jumble so far for Season 5, it is actually... No, it is Season 4. What am I thinking? I don't know, I'm brain fighting right now. The point is, Corviknight apparently is really shaping up the meta, and that a lot of things are having to build around it, and Blitzbolt Tauros is becoming a lot more popular. So I'm interested to see how it's going to be when I cover it, which will probably be it'll probably be later today, if I had to guess. Oh, I forgot I still need to do Rodriguez. And that's a Patreon one as well. I got a lot of things I got to cover. I've been kind of lazy as of late. So prepare for more videos. And that's about it. Thank you all for watching. This is Groundback, and I look forward to hearing from you.